Alright guys, so like I mentioned in the team email not too long ago, one of the things I want to start doing is filming videos on correct exercise performance and technique, okay? Because like I said, at the beginning I didn't want you to think too much about stuff, I just wanted you to get in the habit of exercising, okay? But now as things are starting to get a little more complex, then it's time to start focusing and thinking about your form a little bit more. And one of the most challenging exercises you have in this upcoming phase is a deadlift, or actually it's a modified deadlift, which just means that a normal deadlift, you're picking the bar up all the way from the floor. Now it's just going to be elevated slightly. So before we even talk about a deadlift, I want to talk about a movement called a hip hinge. And a hip hinge is just basically a way to classify certain exercises. So for example, the RDL that you did in the last phase, that is a hip hinge. Basically a hip hinge is just something where the main goal or the main movement itself is just most of the movement is coming from your hips. Okay, or your waist. So that's what I want you to think about in RDL, in deadlift, even when you're squatting. From your hip to your shoulder, you should think about being as solid as possible. Okay, because I've got a lot of questions here recently about, can I add in more core movements? Can I add in more ab movements? Things like that. And that stuff can be okay, but the main function of our core muscles is not to crunch us over. Okay, I mean, how often do you do that during your everyday activity, or how often do you need to do that? You don't need to do that. Your core is meant to resist movement. It's meant to stabilize your trunk so that you don't get a lot of movement in your back. Okay, so almost every exercise you do in the gym, whether it's an inverted row, whether it's a squat, whether it's a deadlift, whatever, I want you to think about being as solid as possible here. And that's how you're going to get good strength in your core muscles, not from doing, isolated crunches and setups, which again, that can help, but as you get stronger in these big movement patterns, that's what's really going to help strengthen your core. So anyways, back to the hip hinge. So like I was saying, basic hip hinge is you're going to start with your feet roughly about hip width apart. So my feet are about underneath my hips. I'm going to think about softening my knees just a little bit. Okay? So my knees are not locked, they're not bent a lot, just soft knees. From here, all you want to think about doing is reaching your butt back as far as you can behind you. Okay, so if you see me in this position, from my hip to my shoulder, I'm straight, right? I'm not here, I'm not really arched in my back, okay? I'm just sticking my butt back, and I'm just folding over at the waist. Okay, so as I reach my butt back, at the same time, my chest is coming forward. Okay, so as my butt goes back, my chest comes forward so that my chest is roughly over my feet. And that's what allows me to maintain my balance. Okay, a lot of guys, when they try to stick their butt back, they also try to keep really upright, and what's going to happen? You're going to fall backwards. Okay, so again, I'm maintaining my balance. My weight should feel centered over my foot. I'm going to soften my knees. I'm going to stick my butt back until I get a little bit of tension in the back of my legs. And then from here, all you're thinking about doing is using the back of your legs, your butt muscles, to drive your hips forward. Okay, so again, folding at my waist, folding at my waist, folding at my waist, my chest is coming forward. I get tension about here. And again, I'm just going to use the back muscles here to push my hips back forward. Okay, so that is a basic hip hinge. When you were doing your RDL before, where the band was behind you, your feet may have been a little bit wider. That's okay, but that's the same pattern. You're letting the band pull you back, pull you back, pull you back. The band's adding resistance. You have to use the back of your legs, your butt muscles to drive the weight forward. Okay? The only difference now is with a deadlift, the force is actually straight down. So with the band behind you, right, the force is actually backwards. The weight is pulling you backwards. But with a deadlift, the weight is pulling you down. So because of that, because of the force differences, you actually target muscles a little bit differently. Okay? So if we're thinking about a deadlift, I know I don't have a bar here, I'm sorry about that. The gym is too crowded to film there. But imagine I have a bar that's roughly about at my shins, okay? I'm going to start with my shins relatively close to the bar, about an inch or so away. I'm going to think soft knees. I'm going to fold at my waist until I get that tension in the back of my legs. Once you have that tension, if you're still not able to quite get to the bar, you're just going to bend your knees a little bit more while at the same time pushing your butt back. Okay, so again, I'll show that again. I'm going to stick my butt back until I get tension about here. I still can't quite, my hands are about at my knees, but the bar is below that. So I'm going to bend my knees, but at the same time I'm going to push my butt back until I can get to the bar. Okay, so if you see me here, I'm pretty folded over. I'm not really upright, I'm pretty folded over. And that's what makes this a hip hinge. Most of the motion is coming from your hips. Okay, a squat is different in that I'm more upright and more of the motion is coming from my knees. Okay, so once you've gotten that position, you got to the bar, you're going to grab a hold of it, hands are just outside your legs. You're going to pull the bar close into your legs. You want to keep the bar as close as possible. Pull the bar close into your legs, and now from here, you're just going to push with your legs. Push with your legs and slide the bar up your legs. Okay? So think about if you're going to pick something up from the floor, right? If you pick it up and it's really far away from you, that's a lot harder, that's a lot more torque around your back than if you keep it close to you. So that's why you don't want to pick the bar up really far out in front of you. You want to keep it as close as possible. Okay, so again, I'll go over one more time. I'm going to fold over, I'm going to get the bar, I'm going to pull it so it's really close to my legs, and from here, I'm not thinking about lifting it with my upper body. I'm thinking about locking myself in from hip to shoulder, and I'm thinking about pushing with my legs. Okay, so again, the whole time from hip to shoulder, I am not moving. My core muscles are keeping me solid through here. Okay, so that is basically a deadlift. If you guys have any questions at all, make sure to send them to me, and also I'm happy to look at your form if you want to film it. Preferably, probably from the side is the best angle to get it from. But I hope that helps, guys, and I'll be filming more of these in the future. So let me know if you have a certain exercise you think would be beneficial or whatever. I'm happy to help. Take care.